On the next all-new episode of Invincible Fight Girl.
It's showtime!
Whoa! This is amazing! How do I know who I'm fighting?
Wrestlers pick their own opponents here. Fight anyone you want.
Invincible Fight Girl. Next Saturday at midnight on Toonami. Next day on Max. On the next all-new episode of Mashle, Magic and Muscles.
If you can survive 5 hits from my magic spell, I won't bother that girl anymore. Your friend also takes 5.
You want to do a 10 hits challenge? Then let's do it, scumbag.
Mashle, Magic and Muscles. Next Saturday night at 12:30. Only Toonami on Adult Swim.
Hello everyone, and welcome to our podcast, Toonami Therapy, recording on December 3rd of 2024. I'm Michael.
Yeah, hello, I'm Tommy.
And this is our podcast, where we talk about Toonami things, regular anime things, and a lot of times other things. Sometimes we might talk more about other things than those other things that I just mentioned, and I just realized how funny that sentence sounds when I say it. So, yeah. Anyway, I guess the news we have in regards to Toonami is, well, now that Sailor Moon Season 1 is done, were you excited to see more of what happens in Season 2? Were you excited to see what's going to happen in the Chunin exams in Naruto? Well, too bad the next 3 weeks are all Dragon Ball Z Kai marathons.
Are they, like, the next episodes, or are they the episodes that have already aired?
They're the next episodes. They're just going to show 4 episodes of Dragon Ball Z Kai per week.
Wow. So 12 in 3 weeks.
Yeah. So, to the listener, we are currently not planning to go through, to be keeping up with that, because, look, 4 episodes of any series in a week is a little much.
Yeah, it's overkill.
There's a few times where I think we've done 3 episodes of a series in a week, but that was just specific instances. So we're for now at least not going to be doing that. If they decide to come back with like the other shows and stuff, we might decide to go back and return to Toonami Rewind, but for now at least we are dropping that. But we will be discussing the ones that aired last week. It's just future weeks we will, at least for now, not be including it. But we'll still be discussing regular Toonami for the next 2 weeks before they just start showing marathons of stuff. Alright, so we then start with regular Toonami. We've got Invincible Fight Girl episode 6, which you were not able to watch for this week, unfortunately. So
yeah, that was the only thing I couldn't watch this week is that. Yeah. So
basically, to try to get more information on how to pull off the perfect strike, hit, I think it was perfect strike. They find out there were some people who fought what's her name, the wrestler who could do that, and who lost to her, but then it resolved they would try to figure it out. So they go to the place where they are, but it turns out those 2 wrestlers have actually, in the meantime, essentially found, due to disagreements on how to do it, have founded rival gangs of some kind. So they try to get them to to talk things over and be nice to each other, but then get interrupted by the fact that someone else is trying to blow up. This one girl they met is trying to blow up like the headquarters for some reason. It's not explained yet. I guess we find that out next episode. I don't have too much. Since you didn't watch it, I won't have too much else to say. But I did actually think this was a decent episode on the whole. Okay. So, yep. So we'll just jump into Mashle episode 4. So Mash, in order to, because he doesn't have magic and can't fly on the broomsticks, he's able to fly by kicking so quickly that it acts like helicopter blades. So he's able to win, and that's all great for him. Meanwhile, another classmate is just, so Mash gets like one of the silver coins, and he needs to get those because if you get enough, you get. Wow, I should have had some great joke on what to do there. You get enough coins, you get I don't know. Insert
get
funny
enough
reference.
Stellas, then you get enough Stellas, you get to do whatever Lloyd was trying to do.
Yeah.
with
Yeah. Okay. There, you did it. You came up with the the analogy this time to Spy Family. So. I mean, it's better than what I was doing. I was trying to think of like something where there was like actual coins you got, and I'm like, what is there? What am I doing? The best I could think of was some of those Super Mario Maker levels where you have to get a certain number of coins to finish.
I see.
Anyway, so he gets the coin. He gets challenged by this other guy to have a fight for their coins, who tries to force Mash into it by shrinking his friends and trapping them in a bottle. But we do find out this other guy is actually being forced to do this, so that's how he can be the antagonist but still be sympathetic. Anyway, we find out that right. So Mash goes over there, and the guy's like, well, I'm going to beat you this way. I'm going to drop the bottle with your friends there, and you'll run to try to get it, and then I'll be able to beat you. But Mashle's just so fast, he's able to, catch the thing, but it didn't have his friends in it anyway. Again, the point is to try to show, this guy's actually a decent guy. So I guess he's just kind of okay with everything, so he gives Mash his coin and moves on, and... yeah, that's the episode. There's essentially that covers all of it. Also the guy who did all that stuff, what was his name again? I need to actually, because I keep referring to them as name. Okay, Lance, that was it. That was his name. There's also a really funny part where Mashle finds out he's obsessed about this girl, and he says, "You're a lolicon." He says, "No, I'm a siscon." Mash just goes, "That's not better." So that was a pretty funny joke.
Yeah. I like this episode. I thought it was pretty good, especially like whenever his team's losing by like 40 in the final minute, and then he breaks the scoreboard with like over 999 points. That was pretty funny. Yeah, I like this episode.
Yeah, it was fun. It had some good jokes, and introduced some people, and was decent. So yeah, good episode. Okay, then we've got Blue Exorcist episode 5. Okay, so Rin is doing really bad in classes, while another character who, despite looking kind of like a delinquent, does really great. Basically, they end up they argue a bunch, but then they have to work together to solve a problem, and then they stop being so angry at each other, which is about like 50% of these conflicts get resolved in anime.
Yeah, he needed a rival, so he got his rival.
Yeah, that's basically it. That was kind of the episode. I guess the main point was to try to introduce us more to the other character, and well, it worked.
Yeah, one of my favorite characters, Kamiki, showed up finally in this episode, but she, I don't know if she even spoke once. She was just kind of there in the background. It was kind of like one of those things that's like, this character is going to be important, but we don't want you to know that yet. So they're just kind of hanging around. So, yeah.
Yeah, I unfortunately can't even remember what her character was.
Purple-haired girl.
No, I mean what I mean I was able to figure that out when I looked her up. I just was like, what was her personality and role in this series?
You'll find out soon enough.
Okay.
She's like the Oscar of the series.
Unfortunately, there are so many things that can mean. Are you saying that she's a tsundere? Are you saying that she's like the character who joins in midway through? Are you saying that she's one of like the love interests, or some combination of all of these?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we then just go on to One Piece episode 696. So, the bad guy, Diamante, he's able to beat Rebecca because, well, I guess we can't have her actually, win any important fights. But her father just shows up, is like, yep, well, I guess I'm gonna save you and beat this guy now. So, okay. Meanwhile, they do, let's see. Yeah, although Rebecca does they do get the keys, so they are finally, Luffy and Law are like finally, freed from all those like shackles and stuff. Then they just keep going on to the palace like they've been doing for a while. It's like Luffy is trying to get to the palace. It's this arc's version of running from poison gas.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you see a bit more of Sugar, who's like, I'm going to do something, trying to be all ominous and stuff. So, yep, that's One Piece.
Running from... Yeah. Was that... Okay, that was... What arc was that in?
That was...
Fistman arc.
That was Punk Hazard, the one before this.
Oh, okay, yeah, Punk Hazard, that's right. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Have we really been in this arc like the whole calendar year? Or
we've been in this since September 2023.
Oh my. Oh my. Yeah, I had a hard time figuring out the padding in this episode. I know you said what we could do is look out for the padding in it, but I couldn't find the blatant padding things in this episode. So did you find any?
I'll be honest, I suggested that and I completely forgot all about it. I don't know, there probably were a lot of reaction shots. I think when you watch One Piece for long enough, you just kind of stop noticing it unless it's really extreme. You just kind of like, you just get used to it. Like, it's like some kind of Stockholm syndrome, I guess. I don't even know if that's the right usage of that phrase. That's just what popped to mind.
Yeah, I don't think that's what you think it means.
No, it doesn't. It just popped into my mind as something. Let me just double check on that. Yeah, this has nothing to do with Stockholm Syndrome when I double check. I don't know. But you get used to it, and and so you stop noticing it as much. And just
Yep.
to check, wow, which is funny because this seems like it was an especially low adaptation. We got let's see, 6 pages from one chapter and 5 pages from another for a total of 11 pages, so that's like what, 11 out of 19, the usual 19 pages. What's the percentage of that? That's 58% of a chapter.
No, we really moved.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Okay. So we'll move on from that and go and talk about the last episode of season 1 of Sailor Moon, episode 46. So basically, Usagi fights Beryl, and basically managed to, well, I'd say she screamed her way to a power-up, but she didn't really do that. I guess like she concentrated her way into it, hoped her way into it. The point is she gets a power-up that beats the bad guys, brings everyone back, undoes the brain washing, and then except then makes them all lose their memories of everything that happened until this point. So I guess that's how, well, I guess Luna and the other cat still remember it. So the bad guys are beaten, but everyone's forgotten each other. Don't worry, I'm sure in season 2 they'll get all the memories back, which makes you wonder why they've actually bothered with this.
Yeah, so everyone lost their memories. So yeah, I don't really understand the whole lost their memories thing. Is not even Usagi remembers it? Like, okay, I figured it out. It's she's gonna check her watch and pull out a piece of paper, and whenever that happens, she'll be like, just as planned, and all of a sudden she'll remember everything, and it'll be all it'll be all back to normal. That's what's gonna happen.
Oh, I just checked what they get, since I don't know if we'll actually be getting the second season or not. I was just checking. Yeah, it looks like everyone gets their memories back in the first 2 episodes of the next season. So legitimately it does make you wonder, why did they bother? It would be like what you referred to there, the whole justice plan thing. Well, that, yeah, they got it back, but that was part of a plan, and also it didn't happen right away.
No.
Can you imagine if in the series we're talking about, which I'm avoiding mentioning just because it is a spoiler, look up Just as Planned if you need to know what it is. But if they had lost their memory and then as part of that plan, and then the next episode, well, they just got it back. Okay. So that's the end of season 1 of Sailor Moon, though. So I guess now might as well talk about the series. Well, there was some stuff that was decent in it, but oh man, this did not need to be 46 episodes.
Yeah. Pretty much overkill. And most of the episodes I like come in season 3, season S. So I don't know if we're gonna ever get there on Toonami Rewind, especially with this whole Dragon Ball Z Kai marathon thing coming up. So I don't know if we're ever gonna get there. But yeah, this season had so many of the same episode over and over again, that once they introduce some more characters, it actually does become kind of good, not great, but once you've got more characters, then there is more spice to it. It's uh the it's not as monotonous as this one is, where half the season was just new guy shows up and attacks everyone, and then they fight him off, and then they get brought back to normal and repeat. So, yeah, I mean, I think this would work a lot better if you if you did what they do in Sailor Moon Crystal and met one new guardian per episode, and that kind of sped things up. Of course, I never got around to finishing Sailor Moon Crystal, but that's kind of what they do at the beginning there.
Yeah, Crystal goes by way faster. But it's also, in a lot of ways, they're the thing is, usually it's easy to say, oh, there's filler stuff, but really, I would really call the anime, the original anime, more of just a loose adaptation of the original manga. It follows the same general story, but it changes a lot and adds a lot. I mean, I want to... So, for example, Queen Barrel's 4 generals or whatever they were, Jedi, Nephrite, Zoisite, Kunzite, they get way more characterization in this. Especially the later ones, like Nephrite, all that stuff, where he kind of turns good, but then dies. That was not in the original story. He's just a bad guy and he dies. And that's the case, as I understand. The same for a bunch of the later villains as well. In the manga, they didn't really, they didn't get much fleshed out, and often would just show up and then die pretty soon. Whereas the anime would give them more attention, make them make them more interesting, that sort of thing. So on that level, yeah, that's good that they did that. That was a complaint I've definitely seen towards the source material in Sailor Moon Crystal. The fact that the characters, not even just the villains, even the protagonists, do not get that enough focus and characterization, and the Sailor Scouts or Sailor Guardians, as they say it in this dub, are much more interchangeable than they are in this series. But we've just come to the fact that there are so many episodes here that are not necessary. That's the thing. For example, I was just checking on to compare it. So this season, I would say corresponds with the first season of Sailor Moon Crystal. And just to make it clear to people, Sailor Moon Crystal is a much more faithful adaptation of the manga. It follows it pretty closely. So these general events, the whole thing, we fight against Beryl and her minions and all that stuff, that's 46 episodes here, I think I said it was. Something around that. And the first season of Crystal was 14 episodes. And technically that actually goes a little farther ahead. For example, the end of that one introduces Chibiusa. I think that's how her name is said. Whereas this series, she's introducing the second season, but not until episode 14 of it. So she shows up right away in Crystal, whereas here it's what I mean is she shows up right after this, whereas in Crystal, whereas in the second season of the original one, Sailor Moon R, she doesn't show up as quickly. That's the whole thing. Again, it's best to see this as more something that was loosely based on the original manga. So it has a lot of stuff. I'm kind of repeating myself again, but some things play out differently. The general beats are the same, but they do a bunch of things differently. And one of those big differentlies is things take longer. In some cases, that's good. It means that people get more characterization. In some cases, that's bad because it means you get all these episodes where the same thing happens. And that's just I haven't seen Crystal, so I can't really compare it. I'm going by what other people have said, but I just keep thinking there has to be a nice happy medium somewhere in all of this. One that gives the more characterization and such and more focus on characters that this one does, but does not have all of these extra episodes. There's probably some list out there somewhere of all the actually important episodes, and maybe that's the happy medium. Just find one of those lists and watch those episodes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
On the whole, after all that said, on the whole, I think it was okay. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. I've mentioned a few times when I was a kid, I had an absolutely irrational hatred of the show. I will not even talk about some of the things I did because of how much I hated this series that are just downright embarrassing now that I'm older. So, but I need... And looking back, well, again, irrational hatred. I'll admit that. But I think most of the problems I had with it, the more rational part of it, were things that I had problems with here. Like one of the big issues I had back then was just a question of, okay, why doesn't the villain, they've got all these monsters, why don't they just send them all at once? And the question of what, and the problem of, well, every episode seems to be the same thing, doesn't it? Why don't, that's kind of repetitive, so why keep watching it? And you might be thinking, wait, isn't that a criticism of Power Rangers? Yes, that's why I didn't like Power Rangers much either when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. Although Power Rangers at least had some like kind of cool action and stuff, so I like that a little more. So I think my problems still are there, but it is better than I kind of thought. Now that I've seen all of it, there is more continuity, which is I kind of thought, which is nice. But yeah, on the whole, it's I say this series definitely benefited from airing at a time when there were 5 episodes per week airing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'll have more to say about where this ranks when we do our world famous end of year podcast.
Yeah.
Because I did the rankings today, and that ought to be pretty fun. Since almost everything on the list has already been watched the whole way, it wasn't that hard to do it, but we'll get to that later. Anyway, Sailor Moon, it's not as bad as you thought, but it's not that good either. So, yeah.
I like I said, I was a kid and I was stupid in a lot of ways in terms of that, but it definitely like from an objective standpoint, I think a bunch of the reasons I disliked it were valid. Just it didn't merit the dislike I had there. Like I said, this is kind of, it's so weird because I think some of the other, if I had been a little more of a fan of the series, watching this now, I think I would have been like, yeah, well, I guess it's not, I guess there was some nostalgia filter there. But for me, it's like, oh, I guess it was a little better than I thought it was. Okay. So, now, next we have Naruto episode 39. In this episode, Sasuke fights the guy, but he manages to, but basically he just copies a technique that Lee used and then is able to win. So,
yeah.
Yep. So then Kakashi takes him in order to do a sort of sealing thing to keep the cursed seal under wraps. Orochimaru decides to show up and goes, "Hey, I'm here now. By the way, I sure hope you like having me around because I'm going to be around for a very long time. I'm going to be the Naraku of the series. The guy who you keep wondering, wait, they're still alive?" Orochimaru really is the Naraku of the Naruto in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So then we then we move on to the next round where we start the next round with Shino and I don't know, one of the sound guys who we don't really care much about. So I wonder who will win. But yeah, they only barely start to fight when this episode ends.
Yeah. Is Shino the guy with the ants?
Yeah, he's the guy who's always got the glasses on and he's got like the insect powers.
Yeah. Okay. I was just making sure I remembered him correctly. I'm like, is it him or is it Choji, the guy who likes potato chips? But yeah.
Oh, Choji's power is that he can make himself really big.
Okay.
And yeah, that's his main power, honestly. Okay. So yeah, that was Naruto. It was okay.
Are we talking about the end of Naruto yet? Because we don't know if it's coming back or what.
We don't know if it's coming back or not. So I don't know if it might not come back or maybe it will, but we won't keep up with it. Like I said, whether we continue with Toonami Rewind is up in the air because it is a bunch of extra stuff to watch per week. But I guess we might as well talk a little about what our impressions of it were so far. I mean, undoubtedly we'll say some of this stuff in the end of the year rankings, but at the same time that's more of us listing things and less of a discussion. So this might be a good time to have a discussion about it. So we've got Naruto, and one problem with trying to talk about Naruto is the fact they skipped over a bunch of episodes, including what a lot of people say was the best arc of the series, or at least one of the best arcs.
That was uncalled for. That, and that's might be the reason why they are all of a sudden just throwing Dragon Ball at us, because they know they messed up. Because I mean, I don't know why they had to make that skip. Was it like some sort of ratings problem? They're like, okay, we're not getting high enough ratings, so let's put in an arc that people remember pretty well and try to get people to watch because they remember this one arc. I don't know the reason for it, but it was a dumb decision in my opinion, because it really killed this storyline that we were following. And I think ever since they did that, I haven't really enjoyed Naruto, even though I did originally like these episodes. They weren't as good after what happened. So yeah, I wasn't a fan of that.
Yeah, that was weird. It was, let me double check on what I was, there's something. I remember someone what was the thing he said about, the main guy currently in charge of Toonami, Jason DeMarco. I think he did some sort of remarks. Okay, he did. I was looking at what I didn't see him say this, but this was sort of a summary someone posted about it. He said that it was Adult Swim's decision to skip them, and that no one from like Toonami actually knew about it. They just did it. So but it doesn't say exactly what the reason was. So I'm not sure exactly why they did it. who knows? I remember way back in the day, this was a weird one where, let me actually see if I can find this. They had some really bizarre airing thing for Prince of Tennis and Mare when they aired it on Toonami. At least initially, they might have changed it. Let me just check on this quick. Maybe it lists them someplace. No, it's not. I'm not seeing it listed clearly here. But when they aired Mare, that full name Mare, March and Awakens Romance, and Prince of Tennis, they did some bizarre thing where they just skipped a bunch of episodes. Like, they go, okay, here's episode 1, next episode 5. After that, episode 8, then episode 11. It was something like that.
Like card captors.
Like what?
Card captors.
Oh,
That's
okay.
what they did. Because card captors, they cut out so many episodes due to them being, quote unquote offensive. So you get, episode 1, then you get episode 10 or something like that. And that's how that went.
What in that series, Card Captor, well, when they aired it as Card Captors, when originally the title was Card Captor Sakura, I can't remember. I think it's pronounced Sakura. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's as it is in Naruto. For some reason, I thought it was a little different there. Yeah, I'm looking at some of the things there. I thought they just like straight up skipped a bunch of the early episodes. They just fast forwarded to the one where Lee Shoran, I think was his name, shows up. Yep. So yeah, they just skipped through them because I don't know. I guess people say that they were just trying to make it less of a girly series or something. I honestly, from what I've heard, like I've seen some people saying, people complain about like 4 kids, but they didn't do anything on the level that that was done to Card Captor Sakura.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was Deke, wasn't it? DIC.
Yeah, Deke did it. They also handled Sailor Moon, the original dub. Although they didn't cut out anywhere near as many. Like the original Sailor Moon dub, as I understand it, there were some changes and some censorship and stuff, but on the whole, like, it was just okay. We change a few things here. We skip through some episodes. We'll try to, disguise anything that like might be considered inappropriate at this time. That sort of stuff. But it was not on the level of Card Captor Sakura, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
To switch back to Sailor Moon, I'm sure someone could say, oh, well, maybe part of the reason you disliked it so much was because of the dub. I mean, maybe part of it. I don't think that was ultimately it. I don't think any of the problems I had with it back then or even now are changed. Heck, maybe I would have liked the original dub a little more now because they cut out some of the unnecessary episodes of Sailor Moon.
And they cut out the humor, the unintentional humor of those original dubs. So yeah, we don't get that unintentional humor. So
you don't hear the stuff that everyone made fun of in the original Speed Racer, where the people just like, the way the characters would talk with the weird inflection and they often pauses and speaking really fast and then pausing at random points, that sort of thing. I'm trying to ape it. I don't know if I did it well, but that's what so many places have spoofed. Yeah. So I forgot, what were we talking about again? Was it Naruto?
Yeah, it was Naruto.
Okay, we got off topic. I guess we were still technically talking about anime. But yeah, it was weird here because it wasn't just skipping over a few Actually, it is interesting. There were a bunch of other series that did it. Outlaw Star skipped past that one episode that they did air later on Toonami during the rerun, which they still had to edit slightly.
Cowboy Bebop, they cut out 3 episodes.
They did?
Yeah, like one of them I remember was because the space shuttle Columbia for some reason showed up in Cowboy Bebop, and I was like right after Space Shuttle Columbia disintegrated, and they had to cut that out. So, and then there's another episode that was too much like 9/11. Yeah.
I'm curious. Let me just check on this. Let's see. Okay, I'm looking at like the list of episodes. Yeah, it looks like there were some episodes that were originally going to air, but then they skipped over they skipped over some stuff because it was going to air literally like pretty much right after September 11th, 2001. So so there was that, but they aired them all again eventually, at least.
Right.
It looks like they at least did get the things in the, as you could say, when they originally aired it, they skipped past some stuff, but then when they re-aired the series, and they re-aired it a lot, I think they were starting to they included all the episodes. And of course there's Pokemon, which skipped over some ones. There's of course the Porygon episode, the seizure episode, and some other
because of that neither Porygon nor any of its evolutions have ever appeared again in a Pokemon episode. So,
which is unfair.
Porygon Z got punished as a result.
Yeah, well, which is kind of sad because it wasn't Porygon that caused it. It was an attack from Pikachu.
Yeah.
And then there were some other ones, like the gun episode got like we could. There's
Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, that's the one where James pretends to be a woman to enter this bikini contest, and with inflatables to make himself look like that. That one eventually aired, but they heavily edited it.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about that is that they actually I think they just made a separate episode and replaced it there, because that was one where they just had some alternate version of the episode that was very different, if I remember correctly. And then much later on, they decided to re-air this one, just, edited.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of Pokemon ones. We could make an entire episode about just what Pokemon episodes got cut out, but we might want to move on to Dragon Ball Z Kai at this point.
Let me just say one more thing. I'm talking about ones that didn't air, ones that got skipped over. Then there are some episodes of Pokemon that aired and got and then they stopped showing them in reruns after a while, like the Jinx episode, because because that had Jinx's original design, where the one that got all the accusations of being blackface. So, yeah. Okay, we should get to Dragon Ball Z. Right, let's just to finish up with Naruto. I will say, we got so much off track there, but I would say finally, so far, if this is all we're going to end up seeing of Naruto, either because they stop it or because we just don't return to it, I would say of the episodes we saw, again, they skipped past one. We did not. I think it's decent, but it definitely is not as interesting as I remember it being. I think part of that is just the fact for outside of One Piece and maybe a few other things, their anime tends to adapt manga a lot more quickly. They put more chapters in each episode. And Naruto, compared to way modern shonen anime, does it for the most part. It's just going through it much slower, so the pacing seems much slower. Okay.
Okay.
Anything else to add?
No.
Okay. Whew. So we move on. Hey, I mean, we might as well get all this stuff out. We're not going to be discussing Toonami Rewind, at least for a while. So,
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Z Kai, episode 34. All right, so Ginyu, we find out, basically punched himself to wound himself because he swaps bodies with Goku and leaving Goku in his body. And for I can't remember why, but for some reason they just leave the wounded Goku in Ginyu's body there rather than finishing him off or anything. So they leave. They go back to the base. Our heroes have found the Dragon Balls, but they're not able to actually use them because they don't know how to activate them. The Ginyu in Goku's body starts fighting them. Goku in Ginyu's body ends up popping up, making it back to them despite his injuries and pointing out, yeah, well, Ginyu doesn't know how to use my body, so you can still beat him. And that's Vegeta, meanwhile, is fighting the Jace, I think his name was, the red guy, and I think that covers all the stuff that happened there.
Yeah, so this was the first episode of Dragon Ball Z I ever watched. I don't remember the way they said the title. Whenever they said the title this time, it didn't sound as cheesy as it did. I remember it being the first time. Like, I remember it being like, surprise, Goku is Ginyu and Ginyu is Goku. And this one, it was just like, surprise, Goku's Ginyu and Ginyu's Goku. And I was like, that wasn't very interesting. That wasn't very funny. But yeah, so at the time, I had no idea who any of these people were. Like, I called him Fajita, and I thought he was actually a good guy at the time. Well, he is now, but I mean, I thought like he was a good guy already. So, yeah. So yeah, a lot has changed since I last saw this episode. But yeah, that's Dragon Ball Z Kai for you.
Mm-hmm. I know it's probably really hard to remember that far back, but if you can remember, do you think you liked this episode more or less the second time around?
Oh, definitely more.
Okay.
Definitely more. I didn't even like Dragon Ball Z until maybe when Mr. Satan showed up, and then I was like, okay, this show isn't meant to be taken serious, so I stopped taking it serious, and it became a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah, there were some funny bits here in this episode, like when they're trying to activate the Dragon Balls, but it doesn't work, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And we should never forget that if you go back to the beginning of Dragon Ball, and I don't mean Dragon Ball Z, I mean original Dragon Ball, this series started out as a wacky comedy series that happened to have some fighting in it. Over time, it became more serious and focused more on the fighting things, but it never completely lost the comedy. But yeah, at the beginning, this series was almost a full-on gag series.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the author's previous series, Dr. Slump, that was just a gag series, period. I don't know if this is true. I can't remember where I read it, but I heard that the author wanted to end Dr. Slump because he had kind of lost some interest in it, and his editor said something like, "Well, okay, you can end it, but your new idea has to be even better and more popular." And then he made Dragon Ball. Like I said, that might not be a true story, but oh boy, would it be funny if it was. Okay, moving on from that, we'll move on to our non-Toonami series. So we got Yu Yu Hakusho episodes 24 to 25. So they go up against the deadly triad or triad. It's triad, I think.
Triad.
There's so many words that I say, and then I'm like, wait, is that the right way to say it? The main characters managed to beat them kind of surprisingly quickly. Like, so many anime would be, oh, we'll take one episode for each. And here it's like, yep, we're done with all three of them in one episode. And so then they end up going up against Toguro. The bad guy, the main bad guy, the one who hired Toguro, the rich gangster guy. Again, there were those bets that were going on. So the one who kept betting on the intruders, Sakio, I think his name was, this time he decides to just to literally bet like trillions of yen on the intruders to basically, so that the loser will basically become bankrupted. And well, good for our heroes, not so good for the other guy. Our heroes managed to, after a bunch of fighting, managed to beat Toguro, rescue Yukina, and everything is all good for them, it seems.
Yep. I'm just having a hard time figuring out who Kurobara's match is going to be. Is it going to be Botan? Is it going to be this girl? Or is it going to be someone else, Because Kurobara seems to be pretty good with the ladies. And but Keiko's already taken. So we know it won't be Keiko. Yeah. So, yeah.
One thing I was kind of wondering about was, because in the first of the fights where they're going up against the apparent female member of the trio, except in Yusuke deduces via groping that it's actually a guy and stuff, because, well, you can't have a female character actually be a real serious combatant in Yu Yu Hakusho. It's definitely okay, there are a few, but it's definitely a series that is really low in terms of actual like female combatants. And I was just thinking, okay, so they did this because they totally censored that out in the original Toonami broadcast, but I can't remember how they played it instead. They played it differently somehow, but yeah. So just wanted to briefly mention that. On the whole, I thought it was a decent episode. Episodes. The fighting, the triad were kind of, those were just kind of there. They didn't really have anything particularly interesting with them. You honestly probably could have just skipped past them entirely. The fight against the Toguro brothers was a little more interesting, but that's also done with kind of fast. Although there will be a I won't spoil the next episode, but we find out more about that. So on the whole, this was kind of a short arc, but I feel like if I didn't know that this arc was actually kind of setting up some stuff for the next arc, I think I would probably like it less, but it works as a kind of a short sort of thing to open up to the next one. So that's what I'll just say in regards to that. I will say it is a little funny that usually it's the heroes, but yeah, Toguro screamed his way into a power-up. Okay. Anything else to say about it?
No, not really.
Okay. Whew. And then we're on to Oshinoko episode 23.
Okay, so um, Aqua gets everyone to go on a trip, which he kind of disguises as a thing for their idol group. But the real reason why he wants to do it is because he wants to see his old hospital and try to find his body, and and he's not able to do it. But then Ruby, along with Akane, end up running into uh, Aqua's former self's remains and uh, sees that he's holding some sort of eye, something of eye in it. And so basically, she figures out who he is, and that's where the episode ends. I really like this episode. I like the whole idea of Aqua trying to find his former self and everything. I I mean, it was kind of creepy, but it was supposed to be, and I kind of like that. And Kana had some good moments herself because the series always comes back to Kana, and C was pretty funny in this episode, especially when they're planning to go on it and she's getting all flustered. That was good stuff. So yeah, I love this episode again for the third straight week. I I'm just kind of disappointed that it's the season ends next episode, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, because I want to get to the point where I see people burning their manga. So we aren't there yet, and we're not going to get there. So I really want to see why people are burning their manga.
Well, you can once we finish the season, you can pick up reading the manga after where this ends.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah. But we're definitely very far. It's the end. It was the ending that made people get upset with the series, and we're I think the end of the season marks about the halfway point of the series. So we've still got a decent amount left to go through until we get there. But setting aside the fact the manga had an controversial ending, and focusing just on this, I'll say that this was a decent episode. Although I'm still left wondering why Aqua has never told Ruby, yes, I'm the doctor guy who treated you. Like, did they ever give an explanation? Is it just that he's thinking, oh, well, she was totally in love with me, even though I was way older and I wasn't really interested in that. But hey, but if I were to tell her now, then she might want some incestuous relationship. Like, is that his reason? Did he ever say that?
He didn't say that.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Okay. So I don't know. Yeah, it just struck me as a little weird. He never mentioned to her in all these years, yeah, that's who I was when I was reincarnated, or whatever this was. Yeah, that's there. Although I kind of have to. One thing that I think strains a little credulity for me is the fact that they found the skeletons. It wasn't that out of the way that they had to go. I would think that in the intervening, how old are they again right now? Like 15, 16, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. in the intervening like 15 or 16 years since it happened that no one had stumbled across it.
Yeah, really.
Okay. So, yeah, we got our end of the season next, and I guess we'll see what happens there. I mean, we're probably not going to get anything super big because it's the end of the season, and normally that's not where you put like the big cliffhangers usually in anime. I've noticed. Well, usually if they do it, it's only because, yeah, don't worry, we're going to be getting another season in like, half a year.
Yeah, unless you're doing Star Trek The Next Generation, where they like to put the biggest cliffhangers right at the end of the season. So, yeah.
Well, not the first two seasons. It was only
not the first two. Yeah.
The first season just kind of doesn't have anything particularly special, and the second season, well, it's not a very. It was basically an episode they had to rush. The writer's strike was about to happen, so they basically had to rush out an episode very quickly, and you can tell that immediately from the second season. Well, maybe not immediately, but like 5 episodes in, you'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, they needed to do something very quickly. Okay. So we've got that. We'll move on. ReZero, episode 56. So in this episode, we find out that, let's see. So Subaru, well, he lost his leg, but, well, he got it back because of regenerative powers of dragon blood or something like that. Basically, let's see, yeah, so Priscilla finds him, beats back some of like the monsters. So I don't know if we knew before this that she could fight, but we do now. We find out that I get all of their names mixed up. The Sin Outbishops. The one of them is having the effect of making everyone get angry with each other. But don't worry, the Liliana is able to sing to them, and no one wonders, hey, why is she speaking this? Is she singing in a completely different language than that the rest of us are talking? Because, yeah, they did not dub her singing, nor did they subtitle it.
Nope. Yeah, that was a big problem I had with it.
Yeah. Anyway, we also find out that, let's see. So yeah, Subaru manages to reunite with some of the others, and they're starting to make new plans on what to do. We find out that Crochet basically got beaten really hard, so if you're a fan of Crochet, sorry. She seems to get the short end of the stick everywhere in this season so far.
Yep.
Okay. So, so they're working on that. We also have some stuff with Emilia, meeting all of a bunch of the other wives of Regulus, and she, and finding out, yeah, he's kind of, well, we already knew he was crazy, but he's crazy of the part where he just kind of kills them if they slightly displease him. And yep, that's basically it. Emilia does find out that Regulus, she's able to spy on him to find out that he's got some sort of like telephone thing, basically, and sneaks in to try to use it, but then gets called by Al. So, yeah, there's all that. I was kind of wondering a little, I was thinking, so Emilia was able to use her ice powers to, sneak around the place, go around stuff. And I was thinking, can't she just use her ice powers to escape? She could just
really.
She can just make a bunch of steps, walk down it, and leave. So we'll see. Maybe she's planning to escape, but she just wanted to try to get some information first.
You give her too much credit. Yeah, so the biggest thing about this episode was that as it was going on, there was a certain character. I was like, okay, I'm going to Google this character. And whenever I Googled the character, the first thing that came up was the character's name and then the word death. So, so I was spoiled really badly, and I'm not very happy about it. But yeah, I have been spoiled to one character's death, and yeah, so I thought this was a pretty good episode. I'm not really sure why Amelia isn't fighting back with her ice powers. Like, she could use them to escape. She could also use them to attack the bad guy. Not really sure what she's doing, but yeah. So a pretty good episode, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Priscilla's powers were really cool. The way she's able to use her fan as a weapon, I thought she had some really cool powers. So yeah, that was fun.
Yeah,
and plus she is Aqua's voice actress too, which is good.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to ask you after the podcast which character you're talking about, because I don't want to spoil it for anyone listening, but yeah. So I'm going to, yeah, it was a good episode. I thought it was an entertaining one, and I will say, yeah, I don't have much else to really add to that. This episode, it really went by very quickly. I thought.
Yeah.
Not the next episode though. It's back to classic season 2 ReZero. It's 29 minutes. All right. Okay, so we got that. Then we move on and conclude with Kaguya-Sama episode 40. So in this episode, we basically first have some of the sort of wacky stuff where Kaguya is trying to, talk about how she's hungry in order to get have Shirogane feed her, except then Chica overhears it. It's like, here, you can have my food. And then she tries to like come up with an excuse not to do it, which makes Chica sad, and she leaves. And then Ino tries to offer her food, and she again doesn't want it. And then Ino gets sad and leaves. And then she's finally able to get something from Shirogane, except then he ends up like kind of collapsing. And there's some stuff with anyway. Then we get then we basically ditch the jokes for a while to go into serious mode about, Kaguya and Shirogane's personalities and backstories. And then there's some other stuff there where the other thing I remember is when Kaguya is sort of assistant Hayasaka, she's basically trying to pretend to be Shirogane to her, except when Kaguya says something to her, she just texts it to Shirogane and then reads what his response was to Kaguya, but Kaguya doesn't know she's doing this and thinks it's all just play acting. And yeah, that's basically that was the episode.
Yeah. I noticed with the theme song that they're really, really, really trying to recapture the glory of the original theme song, but it doesn't quite do it. And none of the seasons have ever been able to top that original theme song. So I wish they kind of did the Oshi no Ko thing and just say, we have no chance at ever beating that first season, so we're just gonna do a normal thing because there's no way we can ever beat the first one. Yeah. I thought it was pretty good, but it did have some of the problems I had with the later seasons of Kaguya-Sama, where it's just too many of these minor characters showing up and doing stuff, and not enough of the interaction between the two main characters. So I thought it was okay, pretty good, but not great.
I just found some of like the more serious character analysis part to be a little boring, was my issue, but it does seem like we are progressing forward with things. So we've got one episode left, which is surprisingly, so at pretty much every episode of Kaguya-Sama up through this point has been like multiple sort of episodes within it. So you look at it and there's multiple episodes listed within each of those. And so like this one was like Kaguya wants to eat it, ice. Our persona and Kaguya wants to confess, ice. That was the three that the full title is those three things combined. The next episode is literally just one title. It's Kaguya is fine with it, and that's it. So that's an interesting fact that they did that for next episode. Maybe I should have mentioned this when we discussed the next episode, but I thought I might forget, so I thought I'd say it now. All right, so we've gotten it here with Kaguya-Sama, and that's the end of. I don't know where I was quite going with that, but that's the end of it. So we're done with all of the series that we watch. So I guess we can just start giving rankings and closing out the episode.
Yeah. So third place for me this week is Mashle. Second place is ReZero. And for the third straight week, Oshi no Ko tops the charts.
I would take that, but I would reverse Oshi no Ko and ReZero to put ReZero in first. Okay. And there you have it with our podcast. Wow, we went on for a while because we just kept talking about anime and how they used to leave out episodes and such. We've really gotten spoiled in so many ways now. They just don't really do that kind of stuff much anymore. And I was also going to point out the fact that nowadays you get all the episodes right away, whereas before it was like you got to wait for all this stuff, at least if you want to do it legally. There are going to be how many current anime fans just all they've known is the simulcast era?
Yeah, really.
Yeah, it like there's all you just look back at stuff that we lived through that so many people nowadays haven't. Like, the nostalgic noise of when you connect to the internet on your modem, the and so many people have never heard of it. Granted, it also means that in some way that's beneficial to them because it means they connect right away rather than, having to listen to that noise over and over. If I remember correctly, on our modem, back in the day, that thing was so loud that we had to like put it behind the computer on the floor so it wouldn't annoy us as much. It is. If someone doesn't know what we're talking about, if you go to YouTube and search like modem connection noise, you should find a video that's got it. But of course, that just makes me think, well, wow, what kind of stuff did I never have to deal with that people older than me did? Like typewriters, probably. I remember we had a typewriter, but I never really used it because by the time I was old enough, we had just gotten a computer.
I use the typewriter a lot, but I'm like about 2 or 3 years older than you. So yeah, I typed with the typewriter quite a bit, and one of those things where it could like get really hot. So yeah, that was I did a lot on the typewriter as a kid.
Yeah, writing is so much. It's not just the fact you can type the stuff and then you can just select all the stuff and just erase it quickly without having to do any of these things. Like even before typewriters, imagine when you had to like write everything manually. Like before the printing press, where if you wanted to make new copies of something, you had to have someone actually sit down and manually copy every character. Yeah. All right. Well, we could probably talk more about things like this, but if we've already gone considerably longer than we usually do, so I think that's enough for now. We'll be back here next week with a few adjustments, we should mention. We are currently not planning to be watching Toonami Rewind when it's just Dragon Ball Z Kai. We are, however, going to... we thought it would be interesting to... kind of on a whim, especially because it's short and it's near the end of the year, we're going to be watching the 3 episodes of Burn the Witch. And that'll be tossed into our regular show. So we've still got 2 Yu Yu Hakusho, 1 Yoshi no Ko, 1 ReZero, 1 Kaguya-Sama, and we'll have Burn the Witch also there. We're going to be finishing with some of those pretty quickly. Next week we're done with Kaguya-Sama and Oshi no Ko. So anyway, that's the big thing. Beyond that, we'll just have the regular Toonami stuff. So if you want to watch along with us, there's Burn the Witch. I don't really know too much. I read like the manga one shot, but I don't really know too much else about what the anime was. So we'll see it. If it matters, I guess I'll just mention that at least the manga was by the same person who made Bleach. So all right. I said we were going to be leaving, and I keep talking on and on. So just to make sure there's not anything else you want to add, I mean, outside of your usual ending thing.
Nope.
Okay, then we'll see you next week.
Bye.
I come before this council with an offer to strengthen, not weaken Rohan.
I, Wolf, come before you, Hera.
Wolf, don't.
To seek your hand in marriage.
Enough! You do not seek an alliance. You seek a throne. You set foot on these lands again. It will be your head. We will paint the dawn red with the blood of our home!
I pledge to fight for my king.
You will pay for this with your life.
Sound the alarm, now!
You think I am afraid of you?
You should be.
It's not natural, the thing I saw. Helm Hammerhand. He's coming for us all!
The blood of the ancients flows in his veins. The same blood that flows in yours.
You come before me as a bride.
I am bride to no man!
Tell me then, to whom are you pledged?
Death!
From executive producer Peter Jackson and legendary director Kenji Kamiyama comes the feature-length anime film, The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim, in theaters December 13th, rated PG-13.
I smell fresh